the shadows of the past. The flagship sailed steadily through the darkened seas, its deck alive with the eerie glow of Zyrrakthar's malice. Alaric stood near the prow, his face etched with guilt and grief. The memories of Tharen's defiance and Rogar's corruption gnawed at him.
You linger too much on ghosts.
Zyrrakthar's voice came from behind, sharp and cold.
The dwarf and your fallen comrade are of no consequence now.
Alaric's jaw tightened.
They were my friends.
They were weak.
The ancient lord sneered.
And weakness has no place in the new world. You are wearing another pendant. No matter how many you break, you will embrace the power around your neck over and over again.
Alaric glanced at the pendant glowing faintly on his chest. Its whispers promised strength, but pulled him deeper into despair. The gathering at Eldershore. In Eldershore, Queen Seraphine stood with Lyros and the Guardians. The loss of Mithral and the corruption of Rogar weighed heavily on them all. Lyros spoke first, his voice somber.
We have lost much, but we are not beaten. Tharen's sacrifice was not in vain. We must honor him by fighting.
Seraphine nodded.
We fight for all who fell. Eldershore must not become another Mithril.
In the background, Ember Phoenix and Orenix watched silently. The dragon's jade scales shimmered faintly, a beacon of hope amidst the growing darkness. The first blow. Zyrrakthar's fleet struck the shores of Eldershore at dawn. The battlefield erupted in chaos as shadow beasts poured forth, twisted and unrelenting. Lyros led the defense, his trident a blur of motion as he held back the tide.
Hold the line for Eldershore.
Orenix and Ember soared overhead, their flames carving paths through the enemy ranks. Seraphine joined the fray, her glowing sword cutting through shadowed figures. Amidst the chaos, Alaric stayed aboard the flagship, his hands trembling on his sword hilt. Zyrrakthar stood beside him, watching the carnage with a cruel smile.
You see, Alaric, this is power. Join me fully, and it will be yours.
The haunting of Rogar. As the battle raged, a familiar figure emerged from the shadows, a corrupted version of Rogar. His harpoon glowed with dark energy, and his eyes burned with malice. Lyros froze, his heart sinking.
Rogar, no.
The two clashed, their battle echoing with the weight of their shared history. Rogar's attacks were relentless, but for a brief moment, his old self shone through.
Lyros,
he whispered, his voice breaking.
I didn't choose this.
Before Lyros could respond, the shadows consumed Rogar completely, and he disappeared into the darkness. The pendant's power. On the battlefield, Alaric finally descended, his sword cutting through enemies as he made his way to Seraphine. But the pendant glowed brighter, its whispers growing stronger.
Embrace it.
It urged.
With this power, you can end it all.
Seraphine reached him, her face weary but resolute.
Alaric, you are more than this. The pendant does not define you.
But it's all I have left.
Alaric murmured, his voice cracking.
You have us.
Seraphine said, her hand resting on his shoulder.
And you have a choice.
Orenix and Embers sacrifice. As the tide of battle turned against them, Orenix and Ember Phoenix unleashed their full power. Together, they created a blazing barrier, holding back Zyrrakthar's forces long enough for the defenders to regroup. The dragon's roar echoed across the battlefield, a sound of defiance and sorrow. Seraphine called out to them,
Hold fast! Eldershore will not fall!
the legacy of Tharin. In the heart of battle, a shadow beast struck down one of the guardians. As it prepared to deliver the killing blow, a flash of light erupted, a faint echo of Tharin's axe. Seraphine saw it and whispered,
Your sacrifice still guides us, old friend.
The guardians rallied, their courage reignited by the memory of the dwarf, who stood unflinching in the face of darkness. The ancient lord descends. Zyrrakthar finally entered the battlefield, his towering form radiating malice. With a single gesture, he shattered the defensive barrier, sending shockwaves through the land. Seraphine and Lyros faced him together.
You will not take Eldershore!
Seraphine declared, her sword glowing with defiance. Zyrrakthar laughed, a sound like grinding stones.
Fools, I already have.
Alaric's choice. As Zyrrakthar prepared to strike Seraphine, Alaric intervened, his sword clashing against the ancient lords. The battlefield froze as the two warriors fought, a battle of light and shadow.
You cannot resist me forever.
Zyrrakthar sneered.
You are mine.
No!
Alaric said, his voice steady.
I am my own.
The pendant glowed fiercely, and Alaric tore it from his neck. Its light shattered the shadows around him, momentarily driving back Zyrrakthar. The impossible choice. The battlefield was shrouded in shadows, the cries of war fading into a grim silence. Zyrrakthar, the ancient lord, loomed over Queen Seraphine. Bound by dark tendrils, she knelt helpless before him, her silver robe stained with ash. Behind her, the Ember Phoenix and Orenix roared, their flames struggling to pierce the oppressive darkness. Alaric stood before Zyrrakthar, his sword trembling in his hand. The pendant on his chest glowed fiercely, burning against his skin. The whispers within it were deafening now, promising him power, redemption, and the return of his fallen friends. Zyrrakthar's voice was a cold rumble.
The choice is simple, Alaric. Kill the queen, and I will return Tharin and Rogar to you, alive, whole, and loyal. Refuse, and they remain as shadows, and you will lose everything.
Alaric's knuckles turned white as he tightened his grip on his sword.
And if I do this, what happens to the kingdoms? To everyone else?
Zyrrakthar smiled darkly.
What do you care for the kingdoms or their people? They abandoned you long ago. Your friends are all that matter now. Make the right choice, and they will be yours once more.
Don't listen to him.
Lyros shouted from the battlefield's edge, his voice hoarse. Bloodied and barely standing, he pointed his trident at Zyrrakthar.
This is his trap. He will twist your desires into destruction.
Orenix growled, its voice echoing through the chaos.
You have made mistakes, Alaric. But if you have any honor left, you will not let this darkness consume you.
Seraphine, bound and weakened, looked up at Alaric.
You have a choice.
She whispered, her voice faint but resolute.
But no matter what happens, I believe in you.
The pendant's glow intensified, and Alaric dropped to his knees. Visions of Tharin and Rogar filled his mind, pleading, accusing, haunting.
Alaric!
Tharin's voice echoed.
You can save us! You're the only one who can.
Don't let us disappear into nothingness,
Rogar added. Tears streaked Alaric's face. He turned to Zyrrakthar, his voice breaking.
And if I refuse,
Zyrrakthar's smile faded, his tone turning icy.
Then they will remain shadows. You will become nothing. And the Queen, your so-called allies, they will all die by my hand.
Alaric's sword fell from his grip, clattering to the ground.
I can't.
He whispered. Lyros stepped forward, his voice calm despite the chaos.
there's another way. The witch Xylaris in the deep deserts. She holds the knowledge to destroy the pendant's curse and free you from Zyrrakthar's grasp.
Xylaris is a myth.
Zyrrakthar sneered.
And even if she weren't, she is bound by Arithmalis. The demons of demons. You would never reach her.
Amber Phoenix screeched, its fiery wings flickering weakly.
If you don't try, all will be lost.
The bird's voice echoed. Alaric looked up at Seraphine, then at Lyros, Orenix, and Amber. He clenched his fists.
If the witch can break the curse and save us, I'll find her. I'll face Arithmalis.
Zyrrakthar's laughter boomed like thunder.
You face Arithmalis. The creature will rip you apart before you take a single step into its lair. You are a fool, Alaric, clinging to hope where there is none.
Maybe,
Alaric said, rising to his feet. His voice hardened.
but I will not let you win.
The ancient lord's gaze turned cold, his dark power coiling around Seraphine like a noose.
Then your queen remains mine, and you, Alaric, will watch as the kingdoms burn.
With a wave of his hand, Zyrrakthar vanished, taking Seraphine with him. The battlefield was left in eerie silence, broken only by the crackle of dying flames. Lyros approached Alaric, his trident lowered.
The journey to the deserts won't be easy. Arithmalis guards Xylaris jealously. No one who's faced it has survived.
Alaric met Lyros's gaze, his expression grim.
I don't have a choice. If I can save her and the kingdoms, I'll face whatever it takes.
Orenix growled softly.
We'll follow you, Alaric, but know this. The cost of failure will be greater than death.
As dawn broke over the ruined battlefield, Alaric turned his gaze to the horizon. The path ahead was fraught with peril, but his resolve was set. The fate of the kingdoms and his soul hung in the balance. To be continued.